But I really, really like this documentary, seriously.
Thank you.
Really did like it because it does give you a different view of the police, a more specific view. And dare I say, it almost has a thriller quality to it because you kind of know what's going to happen to the police. And you also get the impression as time goes on that you, Stewart, and Sting didn't always... There was always this creative tension about you, even before the band became super famous. Mm-hmm. Would you say that helped the band creatively, or did it take away from it at all?
No, I think it helped. You know, that we had this sort of inner engine, if you like. You know, there was the tension that made us play as well as we did, and every guy fighting for his position, and really like asserting his instrument. And I think there's just it all came out of sort of creative tension and friction when we were recording and playing that just made it what it was. I think it's what you need. It's just a vital element of it, sort of nucleus of energy that drove us onto all that.
Yeah, that's always interesting because I always sort of felt you almost kind of need that sort of creative tension to keep things going. Because if everything's like copacetic, it doesn't really come out the same. Yeah. Not really. And I also read that you guys actually got this movie sold pretty quickly, or at least got the project up and running.
Well, no one really did that.
Yeah.
I didn't know a clue about it.
Yeah, no, it was when Andy and I had met, and Andy had also met with Brett Morgan, who directed Kid Stays in the Picture, among other things, and we kind of banded together saying, let's do something with taking Andy's incredible autobiography, One Train Later, and converting it into a documentary. And right around the same time, there was the concept and then execution of the Police Reunion Tour. So that once that was announced and we knew we could be a part of it as a film, it took only a couple phone calls to kind of to get our wheels rolling as far as financing went, because it was an amazing opportunity. It was a good idea to begin with, but it was a great idea once this thing that was never supposed to happen, the reunion, was happening, and we were going to be there to capture it. So.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, it still took you a number of years to get the documentary made.
Yeah. There were definitely some starts and stops in our process, and some turnover in some personnel areas.
Yeah.
But it's some of these things take a long time, and I think we're all very happy with where it ended up, and it's good things come to those who wait.
That's very true.
That
is very true. And it was funny. I saw this other documentary recently called "The Wrecking Crew" about the.
Someone else just mentioned that.
Yeah. It was just because it just reminded me because Andy, would you say you started off kind of as a jazz musician, or is that something you played?
Well, when I was a kid, like growing up, that let me just preface this with this. And near I grew up, like the rock scene per se didn't really exist. Yeah, there were bands, pop bands. It was all very lightweight, particularly in England. It's very sugary. And the coolest music to be around was American jazz. These were the hipsters. These were the guys that when I was 12, 13, this is what I want to emulate. And it was playing jazz, and of course it got my ear musically. So I started out as a teenager being this sort of jazz fanatic. Then I moved to London with a guy called Zoot Money, and he sort of introduced me to Ray Charles, and Otis Redding. He started to turn me on like blues and all that. And so by the time I was 20, I was starting to take in this other music as well, outside of all that sort of jazz improvisation. In fact, our first show that we performed for ages was basically just James Brown live at the Apollo. That's what we did, note for note. That was how. This was a great training ground. Just playing James Brown, you really got your rhythm chops down after that.
That's true.
Yeah.
And would you say that fame? I mean, the thing that's interesting also in the documentary is how you sort of see how much of a pressure cooker fame is for you and the rest of the group. Mm-hmm. Did it ever hinder you guys creatively, or did it force you to be?
Well, no, I think it did. I think it, by the time we got to like the fourth and fifth albums, and we were sort of starting to somewhat separate out. I mean, that original thing where it's three guys in a van taking on the whole world, we were in stretch limos, 3 separate stretch limos. We went to that place that you sort of dream of, and then it becomes reality, and then it has an effect. And I think it got harder to recreate the early camaraderie and stuff that we did, but we did. We still made Ghost of the Machine and Synchronicity. It just got harder. It felt like we had to manufacture it more.
Yeah, and this is of course based on your memoir, One Train Later. And I was just curious, was there anything from the book that didn't make it into this documentary that you wish had?
Almost the
entire 400 pages.
About 400 pages. Okay.
Well, no, it's an interesting thing because I had to let go of so much in the book that I, slaved over and tried to make as elegant and well written as possible. And someone said to me, "You can't photograph every page of the book," and you can't. And I think the first person that was involved was trying to do that, till we got a super genius editor who made it into a film. Very different process.
Mm-hmm.
A book is not a film.
Yeah, I mean, Andy's musical life pre-Police is so interesting. You could do a full documentary just on that.
Yeah.
And you could certainly do a documentary just on the Police. So you have to make choices along the way of what you're going to focus on, what you speak through. Obviously, Andy's personal life and his photography on top of those other topics. It's all of a sudden you've got to cover a lot of stuff and make a lot of choices immediately. Sort of what's the through line, what's the sub story, and the blessing and curse of you is you have a lot of great, interesting things in your life, and there's a lot to pack in, and that means a lot of things have to fall by the wayside.
Yeah.
In the film version.
It would have been interesting, actually, because a lot of people have mentioned The Kid Stays in the Picture, which is mostly done with still photographs, and this is a documentary that almost could have been the same thing with the early photographs and also Andy's photographs, which were extraordinary.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was part of your inspiration to want to do a documentary in the first place. He to have been such a talented photographer, and be in the position that you were to capture these amazing things in a band that was exploding. It's a rare combination. So having access to all of that, certainly it fills up a lot of the movie beautifully. And you're right, the movie could have been completely done that way.
Yeah, I think back about it. Maybe my first idea of this film in my head, before it became what it was that it was just going to be all the still photographs animated, this process, and that would be it, just like Kids Stays in the Picture. It's not that. I just thought, it can be just like Kids Stays in the Picture. It'll be just these still photographs that I shot, and I'll be talking about it. But of course, we went to a much different place. But we have photographs in it.
Yeah. The photographs are great. I love looking at your photographs in this movie because they seem to, because they do what I like a lot of photographers, what I try to do is just capture life as it happens as opposed to just, doing snapshots of this or that. And then I always find that interesting, because you're kind of catching life as it happens as opposed to just, life in a fixed state,
Yeah, stuff that reveals more truth. Yeah.
It does. I agree. And actually, I had to ask, one song that stayed with me of yours, particularly in The Police, was Mother, which is off of Synchronicity. And I was wondering if you could tell me more about how that song came into being.
Talk about my mum. Well, I just, I had a mother that certainly doted on me. And of course, I was the one in our family that became famous. It was the sort of golden one, as it were, amongst worship. So, that's a weird thing to talk about. But there I was, and she was always on me, in the nicest possible way. But she was my mother, so I ended up writing this daft song that was sort of inspired by Captain Beefheart. And I remember when it came out on the album, of course, we were the biggest thing in the world, and because my mother was watching everything we did, and I thought, come on, she's going to hate this. I was so embarrassed. I had this song called Mother. Of course, she loved it. You know, she loved it. You know, anything I did, it was fine with her. She thought it was a complete hoot. So I couldn't even win on that one.
I think you're trying to get back in and plot.
It did work.
I kept thinking you were doing like a take on the Alfred Hitchcock movie Psycho, almost.
Yeah.
But
Well, it wasn't quite as dark as that, but you know,
Close.
the all-embracing mother. Yeah. You know.
it's a nice cathartic song to listen to, and it sort of stands out.
Well, you know, the odd thing is, there we came out with this giant worldwide hit album, and a lot of the thing that the critics wrote about was Mother, because it was so unlikely. What are you putting a track like that, you know, in 7/4 with this light vocal that's not by Sting? How could you be doing that on an album? You're so big, you can't do stuff like this, but we did it, and it got a lot of notice, as it happens. Yeah.
That's good, yeah. And then it's interesting when we do see the band reunite 20 years later. You still sense there's this creative tension between the three of you. I mean, it's still more at peace, but there's still a bit of tension there.
Oh, yeah.
And how did you guys work around that? Or
Well, with difficulty, you know. I mean, certainly when we got back together, it was like, this is the moment of truth. You know, we all leave the hotel and suddenly we're there in this room with our instruments. And okay, so, you know, not the ability to play. Obviously, we could do that. It's the psychological, you know, like coming together of the whole thing and trying to get back into a groove that we could all be comfortable with, you know, which was very difficult at first. There were some really wild calls on how to play these songs, like so that you wouldn't even recognise them. I mean, there's sort of horror stories that, you know, and of course we were in this hall in Vancouver with various crew people standing around, you know, technicians and all that, you know, and of course they're all sort of bearing silent witness to these three infantile egos like slamming it out. And, you know, some of the calls on the ways to play the song were insane, you know. I can't even go to, it's just too cruel to even talk about that.
It was, I was not one of the crew people, but I remember watching some of those rehearsals.
Yes.
And I had never seen the Police play live before. So it was, and I was a lifelong fan, so it was fascinating to me. And I actually found that it almost felt like you were all going out of each other's way to be polite to each other in a way. Maybe you were forcing it a little bit. Obviously, they were figuring out a lot of things. And I remember going out to take a photo. It was an empty 20,000 seat arena, and you guys were playing campaign and trying to arguing about something, and I just had to go out to take a phone call. And Sting says through the mic, "There's nobody else in the arena." He said, "Don't leave. It gets better. I promise."
Yeah.
well, it's nice to have that backstage look as well.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's an absolute joy to watch. I could have done it all day long, and I did.
Great.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Well, thank you very much for your time. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
you.